Transition from early intervention to preschool. Part 2, Initial Eligibility and IEP Meeting.
This first meeting is to assemble the team and determine if your child is eligible for special education services. The team is comprised of the preschool teacher, any specialists or therapists involved, a special education administrator or designee, and the parents. Typically, members of the early intervention team are also part of the team at this first meeting. You may invite anyone you want to join the meeting. You also have a right to ask the school ahead of time who will be attending. If an important therapist is not available, you have the right to give or deny written consent for holding the meeting without them. It is important to get this first eligibility meeting scheduled in a timely way so that there is little or no gap in services when your child turns 3. It is also important that this meeting be a meaningful conversation towards deciding on the services and supports your child needs.
Once the referral is made, the school has 45 days to schedule the eligibility determination meeting. Once consents are signed, the school has 30 school days to schedule and complete any needed assessments. They are required to make the results of their assessments and observations, their written reports, available to parents 2 days before the meeting, but only if you submit this request in writing. We would strongly encourage you to do this so that you have time to read and process the information before the meeting. This will help you know what to expect from the school, think about any additional questions or concerns you may have, and decide if you feel like their evaluations were valid. If you want to see the reports before the meeting, begin making this request at the evaluation or observations. Then call the school to remind them of your request 1 week before the meeting. If an IEP is developed, you should receive 2 copies within 2 weeks of the first meeting.
In addition to this referral process, you will need to register your child for preschool. Some districts require this before beginning transition planning. Most districts require it between the IEP meeting and your child's actual start to school. You will likely need to provide immunization records and a copy of your child's birth certificate and proof of residency through a utility bill, lease, or mortgage statement. The goal should be to schedule this first IEP meeting 30 days before your child's 3rd birthday, so it is possible to get all of the IEP and registration paperwork done and take time to prepare your child for the changes. You also want to allow time to receive the IEP in the mail within 2 weeks of the meeting and have a chance to review it. It can be helpful to look over the IEP document with members of your early intervention team. Remember that you will be having an IEP meeting every year, but this is the one time you have the extra support of your early intervention team freely available to you as you begin to learn about the process.
This first meeting is an eligibility determination meeting. The team will answer the questions on this grid to determine eligibility. Does the student have a disability or developmental delay? Is the student making effective progress? Is the lack of progress the result of the student's disability? Does the student require specially designed instruction in order to make effective progress? If the answers all lead to eligibility for special education, then they will proceed with the IEP meeting. If your child is not eligible for special education services, inquire about the possibility of enrolling them as a peer in the public preschool. One benefit of this option is if there is an opening and you can make the schedule work, is that in the public preschool classroom, your child will be under the watchful eye of a teacher who is certified in both regular and special education and therefore experienced in adapting to different learning styles. Another benefit may be that your child will have the opportunity to participate in any group activities held in the classroom with the OT, the speech and language pathologist, or PT. Keep in mind that peer enrollment usually follows the school year rather than becoming available at the child's 3rd birthday. This is not the case for children who have an IEP.
The first part of an IEP meeting is to discuss the student's strengths and abilities and review current reports. The team will then develop goals and objectives and determine services and accommodations. Your child's placement is not supposed to be discussed until after these other pieces have been agreed upon by the team. A school district is obligated to provide a placement that offers the services and accommodations a child needs. They are not supposed to simply offer what they have at their program. You should leave the IEP meeting with a written summary of what services are being offered by the school district.
In some situations, the school may offer a 504 plan instead of an IEP. Discuss with your early intervention team whether or not this is an appropriate option for your child. Some important basic distinctions to understand between the IEP and 504 are that the IEP comes under educational law and the 504 is under a civil rights law. 504 plans are about access and accommodations only. There are no services attached to a 504 plan. For example, a child with a hearing impairment has a 504 that documents their right to preferential seating and in-class use of assistive technology devices, but would not extend to speech and language services. Maybe your current school is extremely friendly, low-key, and generous. So far, the process has been pretty easy, but keep in mind that any verbal agreements from the school will not follow your child if they change schools unless these agreements are documented in a legally binding plan, such as an IEP or 504. As the parents, you should also be aware that you may be required to pay tuition to public preschool for a child enrolled on a 504 plan. There is never any cost to parents for services received through an IEP.
Timelines are calculated in school days, not calendar days. School vacations and holidays don't count. This is a special consideration for this initial referral for children with summer or early fall birthdays, which make it important to start the referral earlier than the 120 days so everything can be completed in time for your child's third birthday.
The meeting should be scheduled at a time that is convenient to the parents. Parents are an integral part of the team. Parents have the right to invite anyone they want to attend the meeting. It is possible to hire an educational advocate or bring a family member or friend who has experience or offers moral support. Having someone write down notes for you is also helpful. Members of your EI team will attend if the meeting is scheduled before your child's third birthday. Some towns prioritize including all team members, but some do not. If having your EI team at the meeting is a priority for you, it can be helpful to coordinate schedules with them to inform the availability you communicate to the school. Come to the meeting prepared to talk about your child's strengths and needs, but understand that this is a situation when you need to focus on needs and concerns more than strengths and accomplishments. It is very helpful to meet with your EI team or service coordinator before the meeting and discuss the concerns and needs. Write down the specific points you want to remember to address in the meeting. Make sure the team meeting covers everything on your list. Do not hesitate to speak up to share your perspective or ask a question. If the school staff begin talking in education lingo, there is no reason to be embarrassed about asking a clarifying question. On the contrary, most school staff appreciate the reminder when they have slipped into that habit. They know the meeting is supposed to feel inclusive and welcoming to the parent.
Highlight any medical issues or safety concerns, such as running away in public, climbing ability on stairs and play structures. It is okay if your child continues to wear diapers. Toilet training is not a requirement for any student attending preschool and is often a classroom goal for many children.
You will be asked to express your vision for your child, meaning what you would like to see for them the next couple of years at school. This vision will be linked to goals and outcomes, so it needs to be more specific and connected to teaching and learning. All parents want their child to be happy and make friends at school. In addition to that, think about your vision for your child in terms of skills and abilities. Also think about the next transition, kindergarten. What goals in these preschool years will best prepare your child for what comes next?
Public schools offer speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy, vision, hearing, nursing, and behavioral services. Schools also have psychologists and social workers. If the child needs the service to access education, then it is relevant to their education. If you prefer, it is possible to receive needed services from the public schools without attending the public preschool program. If your child is eligible for services, you can arrange to bring them to the school just for the appointments and continue other outside childcare or preschool options. During the IEP meeting, the team will complete a service delivery grid, which specifies whether each service is offered in or out of the preschool classroom. Another form of service may be consultation to the teaching team.
If parents of preschool children are unable to provide transportation, then towns are required to offer transportation to students who receive special education services. The reason must rise above the level of simply being inconvenient. It is possible to arrange preschool transportation to and from home or daycare as long as they are within the same town.
Signing the IEP. Never sign the IEP at the meeting. Parents have three options. They can agree to the placement, goals, and programming. They can partially accept and explain why, or they can reject it all. If you reject the first IEP in its entirety, then the school has no obligation to provide any services until the issues are resolved and there is a signed IEP. For any subsequent IEPs, if you reject it entirely, then the existing IEP continues until the issues are resolved. Before rejecting, try having a conversation with the school team through a phone call or requesting another meeting. It is in everyone's best interest to resolve these types of issues. If a portion of the IEP is rejected, it is flagged to the Department of Education. Next steps are mediation and then the Bureau of Appeals. Remember that your child cannot start preschool until the school has received a signed IEP and their registration is complete. There are many common scenarios that may lead you to reject part of the IEP. For example, the school may be offering direct services rather than a classroom placement due to lack of room. In some school districts, this is common practice in the spring when enrollment meets current capacity limits. But until this question is resolved, you still want to get the services for your child. Or maybe classroom placement was offered, but you prefer to keep your child in their current daycare placement, only accepting the services. Another scenario that would lead a parent to only partially accept the IEP could be that parents are concerned about safety on the playground, but the school did not include a consult for the physical therapist to observe the child on the playground.
Begin to visit the school on the weekends and play on the playground. Take pictures of the school and teachers to make a social story about going to preschool. This doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be simply looking at the pictures on your phone and naming some of the people, things, and activities of school. Talk about the routines frequently so you both feel ready and know what to expect. Find books about starting school at the library or bookstore. You may be able to find out the names of some of the classmates so you can begin to talk about them too.
Involving your child in choosing a backpack or lunchbox can also help prepare for this transition.
It may be appropriate to arrange with the preschool teacher for your child's first visit to the classroom to be when no other students are attending. Most preschools allow children to start gradually over a couple of days. First, they visit for about an hour with a parent present. Next, they may visit a little longer and have parent leave the room for part of the time. Some programs allow children with complex needs to have some of their last early intervention visits in the preschool classroom with their familiar clinicians. How gradual of a transition your child needs will be individual. For all students, though, it does reach a point where it is time to drop them off and let them start adjusting to the new routine.
Your EI service coordinator can share several handouts and resources with you, including a parent's guide to special education, a sample copy of the IEP document, and the parent's rights and procedural safeguards. Here are some other helpful resources. The Parent Advisory Council. All school districts are required to have one, and membership is open to all parents of children who receive IEP services. The PAC has direct input into your child's special education policies and program design. It is also a great place to meet and network with other parents.
The Federation for Children with Special Needs. This parent-run website organization is a great resource. It is also a good place to start if you ever need to look into using an educational advocate.
Family Ties, a statewide information and support network for families of children with disabilities or chronic illness.
Rights Law, user-friendly website for information about special education law and advocacy.
Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, or DESE website. This website is more user-friendly than you might expect. It has many resources, including a guide to all of the education acronyms.
Here is a checklist that may be helpful as you and your child move through the transition process.
You're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way.